effort to build a better Bay Area. Tonight, we're looking at a mile-long stretch of road in Marin County that has come in many ways to symbolize the Bay Area's growing housing crisis. This crisis only worsened through the pandemic. RV after RV, car after car, parked here because people have nowhere else to go.
Denver man says the RVs parked in his neighborhood are parked there illegally, blocking traffic and forcing pedestrians out onto a busy road.
Well, he reached out to contact Denver 7 after he said complaints to the city went nowhere. And as Liz Gilardi shows us, he's worried someone could get hurt.
Across the country, the middle class is falling straight into RV parks, Walmart lots, and highway shoulders. Engineers, nurses, teachers, analysts pushed out of housing overnight. Nearly 750,000 jobs erased and rents exploding so fast that even two-income households can't keep up. RV living isn't a choice anymore. It's survival. Idaho experienced the nation's most violent housing collapse in recent memory. When remote workers abandoned California and Washington between 2020 and 2022, they flooded into Boise carrying massive equity from home sales worth $800,000 to $1.2 million. These newcomers purchased Idaho properties for $350,000 to $450,000, congratulating themselves on smart financial moves while unknowingly demolishing local affordability. The destruction happened fast. Median home prices in Boise jumped 89% in 4 years. Monthly rent for two-bedroom units doubled from $1,100 to $2,100. Idaho residents, including teachers, truck drivers, medical assistants, and state workers, watched wages crawl upward at just 3% annually, while out-of-state buyers earning $160,000 salaries priced them out of neighborhoods they'd lived in for generations. Then tech companies reversed remote work policies, demanding employees return to California offices. Newly relocated workers discovered they were stranded, jobless, and facing impossible rents after selling everything to move. RVs became their only option. Idaho maintains fewer than 15 year-round RV parks across the entire state. Winter temperatures plunge below zero in most cities. Residents living in travel trailers burn through $300 to $500 monthly in propane costs, and standard RVs simply weren't engineered for Rocky Mountain winters. Pipes explode, water tanks shatter, roofs cave under snow weight. Idaho delivers a brutal lesson. Any state can transform from affordable paradise to survival nightmare in under 4 years. Oregon's crisis reveals the gap between progressive messaging and aggressive enforcement. Portland rents climbed 54% after 2020. The city shed 15,000 jobs spanning tech, retail, and manufacturing sectors. Rather than creating accommodation for RV residents, Portland passed one of America's harshest anti-RV ordinances, a 12-hour parking limit on public streets. After 13 hours, citations start. 3 citations trigger automatic towing. The city deployed specialized enforcement teams whose sole purpose is tracking down and removing RV dwellers. Portland simultaneously offers 0 safe parking facilities, no designated RV zones, and no practical alternatives. Tens of thousands endure perpetual displacement. Bend presents an even grimmer situation. Service industry workers earn $15 to $18 hourly, while average rent hits $2,100 for one-bedroom units. Workers survive in RVs parked outside city limits, frequently in forest areas. But the Forest Service now aggressively enforces removal. Seasonal employees sustaining Bend's tourism industry have no housing options beyond RVs they're constantly forced to relocate. Eugene attempted designated RV parking zones as an experiment. The program collapsed within 6 months due to absent bathrooms, security, waste management, and support infrastructure. Oregon perfectly illustrates how rapidly a state can criminalize homelessness without constructing any structural solutions. The enforcement machinery runs efficiently while housing alternatives remain non-existent. Progressive politics meet regressive policies, leaving thousands caught in permanent transit with nowhere legal to stop. California houses America's largest RV homeless population, exceeding 150,000 people living in RVs, vans, and motorhomes statewide. This phenomenon isn't lifestyle branding. It's mass economic displacement. The Bay Area alone eliminated 73,000 tech positions from 2023 to 2024. Middle managers previously earning $180,000 to $220,000 found themselves collecting unemployment capped at $450 weekly. Rents remained virtually unchanged. San Francisco still demands $3,400 monthly for one-bedroom units, Mountain View $3,200, Oakland $2,600. savings disappear rapidly when rent exceeds income. Many residents, particularly those with school-age children or partners maintaining local employment, remain in the region, purchasing older RVs and parking along city streets. California's response emphasizes enforcement almost exclusively. San Francisco invested $41 million clearing encampments and towing vehicles in 2024, sufficient funding to house thousands. Instead, resources went toward making homelessness invisible. Los Angeles operates safe parking programs, offering only 300 total spaces for a city containing 45,000 vehicle dwellers. That represents under 1% coverage. Throughout the Central Valley, agricultural layoffs and drought-driven farm shutdowns push low-income workers into RVs stationed behind factories, orchards, and truck stops. California proves a harsh reality. When America's wealthiest state cannot maintain middle-class housing, the remaining states will inevitably follow the same trajectory. The crisis moves from exception to template. Washington's crisis represents the inevitable outcome of tech expansion outpacing infrastructure by a full decade. Seattle absorbed 190,000 new residents from 2015 to 2023 while constructing only 42,000 housing units. Rents exploded. One-bedroom apartments previously costing $1,600 now average $2,800. Then historic layoffs arrived. Amazon eliminated 27,000 positions. Microsoft cut 10,000, and Google, Meta, plus numerous startups dismantled entire departments. Thousands of six-figure earners suddenly confronted rents they could no longer sustain. Severance packages purchased time, nothing beyond that. RV living surged throughout the East Side Tech Corridor. Streets in Bellevue, Redmond, and Kirkland now display rows of Class C motorhomes owned by former tech employees who previously worked in offices mere blocks away. These cities selected enforcement over solutions. A 72-hour rule mandates constant relocation. Violations bring citations, followed by towing. Spokane experiences the hidden version of this crisis. Rent jumped 41%, wages only 8%. Winters reach 0 degrees. Summers exceed 100 degrees. Maintaining survivable temperatures in an RV costs $500 to $600 monthly, combining propane and generator fuel. Rain becomes Washington's silent destroyer. RV roofs weren't designed for 150-plus rainy days annually, causing rot, mold, and rapid structural failure. Repairs often cost thousands, exceeding what most displaced workers possess. Washington exposes boomtown fragility. When the economic engine stops, there's nothing underneath supporting it. Colorado's RV homelessness stems from extreme altitude conditions, tourism-dependent economics, and defense sector contraction. Denver maintains over 4,000 people living in vehicles, regularly displaced by the city's rigid 72-hour parking ordinance. The harshest crisis exists in mountain communities. Vail, Aspen, Breckenridge, and Telluride show median home prices exceeding $2 million. Even studio apartments rent for $2,800. Workers staffing ski lifts, restaurants, and hotels earn $15 to $22 hourly, making traditional housing mathematically impossible. They shift to RVs, even facing temperatures dropping below negative 20 degrees at 9,000-foot elevations. Winter survival means burning through propane tanks every 48 hours. That's $300 to $400 monthly, exclusively for preventing frozen pipes. Even with constant heat, water tanks crack, roofs collapse under snow weight, and inadequate RV insulation fails repeatedly. Colorado Springs confronts its own crisis. Defense contractors, Northrop Grumman, Lockheed Martin, L3 Harris, cut engineering and technician positions after 2024 budget reductions. Workers earning $70,000 to $90,000 suddenly faced rents approaching $1,900 for one-bedroom units. Many purchased RVs to avoid eviction. Meanwhile, national forests implemented new restrictions, only 14 days of camping monthly across entire regions. This effectively eliminates free long-term parking options. Colorado demonstrates what happens when essential workers sustain tourist economies, while being pushed into freezing RVs the moment wages fall short of survival thresholds. Nevada's crisis launched when Las Vegas shut down in 2020, and 140,000 jobs vanished essentially overnight. Casinos, entertainment venues, restaurants, and hotels went dark. When the economy reopened, the housing landscape had transformed completely. Investors purchased entire neighborhoods. Corporate landlords acquired multi-unit buildings. Rent doubled throughout the valley. A blackjack dealer in Vegas averages $45,000 annually, including tips. Casino housekeepers earn $30,000 to $32,000. Studio apartments now cost $1,800. One-bedrooms run $2,200. Workers spend more than half their income on rent, while still failing application criteria demanding earnings triple the monthly rent. RV living became the default fallback. Vegas prohibits long-term RV parking throughout most areas. Thousands of workers relocated to Pahrump, an unincorporated town 1 hour west. RV parks charge $800 to $1,000 monthly, but commuting burns $20 to $25 daily in gas. Many spend 3 hours daily driving. Reno faces different pressures. Housing costs jumped 79% since 2020, driven by California migration. Local wages stagnated. RV parks filled completely. People attempted BLM land outside the city, but desert winds destroy awnings, dust clogs AC units, and summer heat forces generators to run constantly. Nevada illustrates what happens when a service economy cannot house its own workforce. The entire labor force becomes mobile, unstable, and priced out of cities they keep functioning. North Carolina's crisis resulted from economic contraction and catastrophic natural disaster striking nearly simultaneously. Charlotte built its identity around finance: Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Truist. When banking contracted, Charlotte absorbed the impact. Throughout 2023 to 2024, Bank of America eliminated 6,200 positions, Wells Fargo cut 4,100, and Truist removed 2,800. Over 12,000 white-collar jobs vanished in a city where basic two-bedroom rent sits at $2,200. Laid-off analysts, loan officers, and operations managers downsized into RVs, filling every local park around Concord, Matthews, Gastonia, and Rock Hill. Waiting lists formed immediately. People parked in industrial lots and hotel back roads, only to face enforcement sweeps. Charlotte's problem appears minor compared to western North Carolina. Hurricane Helene destroyed 40% of Asheville's rental inventory in September 2024. Entire neighborhoods washed away. Prices surged overnight. One-bedroom units costing $1,400 before the storm jumped to $2,400 afterward. FEMA trailers became long-term housing because rebuilding stalled completely. Thousands live in RVs scattered across rural mountain counties. Dump stations overflow. Propane runs out during winter. Water access becomes a daily struggle. Contractors who traveled to rebuild the region also live in RVs, serving a housing market they themselves cannot enter. North Carolina demonstrates how disaster and economic decline merge into a long-term homelessness pipeline that RV parks simply cannot absorb. Arizona's RV homelessness crisis is driven by extreme heat, failed tech expansion, and housing inflation nobody could match. Phoenix experienced 31 consecutive days exceeding 115 degrees. Actual temperature, not heat index. Inside an RV without AC, temperatures reach 135 degrees. Yet people survived these conditions because rent rose 67% from 2020 to 2024. The semiconductor boom was marketed as salvation. Intel and TSMC promised tens of thousands of jobs across massive fabrication facilities. Workers relocated, rents climbed, developers raised prices. Then both companies announced delays, hiring freezes, and early layoffs. The housing market inflated based on projected jobs that never materialized. RV parks across Phoenix, Mesa, and Scottsdale charge $1,200 to $2,000 monthly, excluding electricity. Running RV air conditioning in Arizona summers costs $400 to $700 monthly. People unable to afford parks attempt Bureau of Land Management land, free for 14 days, but offering no water, no shade, and no power. Batteries fail quickly in heat, water spoils in tanks, and people must drive into town constantly just to survive. Quartzsite, once a seasonal gathering spot, now maintains a permanent RV population created by economic displacement. The town has no infrastructure supporting year-round residents. Arizona proves that climate alone can make RV living financially impossible, And when jobs vanish simultaneously, survival becomes a daily calculation. Texas promised affordability, but reality collapsed under explosive growth and severe housing shortages. Austin absorbed 110,000 new residents from 2020 to 2023, while constructing only 6,000 housing units. That imbalance triggered rent spikes, doubling costs citywide. Two-bedroom units costing $1,500 in 2019 now demand $3,200. Then layoffs struck. Tesla eliminated 11,000 workers, Oracle downsized its Austin operations, and Indeed cut 1,000 positions. Overnight, thousands of skilled workers couldn't meet rental qualification standards requiring income at least 3 times monthly rent. With savings depleted, people bought used Class C RVs and travel trailers. Austin's response wasn't support, it was enforcement. The city effectively banned long-term RV parking within city limits. Fines start at $75, escalating to $500, and towing a trailer costs over $1,400. 0 legal long-term RV sites exist in Austin. Not one. Displaced residents pushed into surrounding suburbs. Pflugerville, Round Rock, Kyle, San Marcos, commuting long distances just to maintain any income. Rising gas prices make survival even harder. West Texas faced different collapse. The oil industry's downturn left thousands stranded in RVs throughout Midland, Odessa, and the Permian Basin. When oil companies cut staff, workers living in trailers suddenly had no employment, no fuel money, and no escape from the desert. Texas exposes the affordability myth. Once growth accelerates faster than housing, even cheap states become unlivable. Florida's RV crisis represents the collision of 3 forces: tech layoffs, catastrophic insurance collapse, and climate-driven displacement. Miami marketed itself as the next Austin, adding 17,000 tech jobs between 2019 and 2022. When the bubble burst, 12,000 positions disappeared, taking thousands of middle-class households down with them. Laid-off workers turned to RVs because apartment rents soared beyond reach. Miami's average one-bedroom reached $2,650, while wage growth stagnated. The state's insurance system collapsed under consecutive hurricanes. 2 major storms in 2024 left tens of thousands of homes damaged. Insurance companies responded by dropping policies or raising premiums to levels normal homeowners couldn't afford. People who still owned houses suddenly couldn't insure them. Many sold quickly, bought RVs, and attempted long-term survival in parks never designed for year-round living. South Florida RV parks now charge $1,200 to $1,800 monthly, with electricity adding $300 to $500 during extreme heat. One Fort Myers park reported 347 people waiting for 87 sites, a 4-year wait list. Additionally, Florida heat makes RV living financially brutal. Running AC becomes a survival necessity, not a luxury. Attempting to boondock with generators can cost $400 plus monthly in fuel. Florida reveals harsh truth. When a state's economy depends on weather, insurance, and tourism, one bad year can push stable families into RVs overnight. Georgia's crisis didn't explode overnight. It formed at the exact intersection of explosive growth, corporate layoffs, and a housing system that broke faster than anyone anticipated. Atlanta grew by 97,000 people between 2020 and 2024, but the entire metro area added only 23,000 new units. When a city grows 4 times faster than it builds, the mathematics collapse instantly. Rents rose 58% in 4 years, forcing middle-income residents into survival mode. Then layoffs started. UPS eliminated 12,000 positions, NCR relocated nearly all headquarters jobs, Home Depot corporate shed departments, and Delta restructured, hitting administrative workers hardest. Thousands went from stable income to unemployment in a housing market where landlords demanded income at least 3 times rent. Very few met that requirement. RV living surged in every county surrounding Atlanta, not for travel, but because older Class C motorhomes were cheaper than deposits plus first plus last month's rent. Every Georgia state park with RV spaces now reports 4 to 6 month waiting lists, a situation that never existed before 2023. The climate adds another cost. Atlanta humidity pushes heat indexes to 105 degrees. Running an RV air conditioner full-time adds $300 to $450 monthly. Cities responded with towing and ticket sweeps on Buford Highway, Moreland, and Fulton industrial zones. No safe lots, no legal long-term parking, just displacement. Georgia shows how fast a booming city can force working families into RVs when growth outruns affordability. Pennsylvania's RV homelessness crisis is rooted in a triple hit: collapsing wages, massive layoffs, and a housing market moving faster than residents can adapt. Since 2023, the state lost over 47,000 jobs in healthcare, higher education, transportation, and manufacturing, the exact industries that traditionally kept Pennsylvania stable. Philadelphia experienced a 45% rent increase in 4 years. Wages rose 6%. That gap forced thousands of young workers, nurses, technicians, and adjunct professors into vehicle living. The return of student loan payments in late 2023 pushed even more people into RVs after they failed income qualification requirements for rentals. RV parks in eastern Pennsylvania, once seasonal, now report year-round 100% occupancy, something never seen previously. Many displaced workers park in Walmart lots, abandoned industrial zones near the Delaware River, or behind old rail yards. Winter is the most dangerous factor. Temperatures regularly fall into the 10 to 20 degree range. Keeping an RV above freezing requires constant propane burn, often $300 to $350 monthly. Water lines freeze, tanks crack, and repairs wipe out what little savings remain. Cities like Philadelphia, Allentown, and Pittsburgh began towing RVs under abandoned vehicle rules after only 72 hours, but they provide zero safe parking options. People lose their only shelter with no alternative. Pennsylvania's story shows how slow erosion of middle-class jobs turns into vehicle homelessness, not from irresponsibility, but from simple arithmetic families can no longer beat. Tennessee's crisis is the result of runaway growth slamming into low-wage realities. Nashville became one of America's fastest-growing metros, with home prices climbing 72% since 2020. One-bedroom apartments now average $1,950, far beyond what hospitality, medical support, and service workers earn. Then layoffs came. Amazon scaled back operations, Nissan restructured in Smyrna, and multiple healthcare networks, including Vanderbilt, cut staff as labor costs rose. Thousands of workers earning $45,000 to $70,000 were suddenly jobless in a city where landlords require applicants to earn 3 times monthly rent, meaning $70,000 income just to qualify for a standard apartment. Many responded by buying older RVs, fifth wheels, or travel trailers. RV parks around Nashville, Franklin, Madison, and Lebanon filled instantly. Long-term spots now have 5 to 8 month wait lists. Tourism towns like Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge, and Sevierville face different problems. Workers serving hotels, Dollywood, and restaurants make $13 to $17 hourly, while rent sits at $1,600 plus. The result is hidden RV communities in national forest lands and remote county roads. Severe storms in 2023 and 2024 destroyed thousands of rural homes. Insurance payouts fell short. So many families bought RVs rather than rebuild. Counties responded with towing and strict parking enforcement, pushing people deeper into the Smokies. Tennessee shows how a booming city can hide a collapsing workforce and how fast a tourism economy forces its workers into RVs when housing outpaces wages. New Mexico's RV homelessness crisis began long before layoffs. It started with chronic low wages and an economy unable to keep up with modern cost of living. Statewide median income sits around $30,000 to $36,000, one of the lowest in the country. Rent, however, surged 39% since 2020. That mismatch ensures even fully employed residents are always one emergency away from losing housing. Albuquerque has quickly become one of the top 10 cities in the Southwest for vehicle living. Older RVs and vans line Central Avenue, industrial roads, and empty lots near the river. These aren't travelers. They're restaurant workers, security guards, teachers, and retail employees priced out of apartments that now average $1,450 for one-bedroom units. Intel's Rio Rancho plant announced major delays and contractor cuts in 2023 to 2024, removing hundreds of middle-income jobs. These layoffs pushed even more people into RVs. The desert makes everything harder. Heat regularly surpasses 100 degrees, which turns RVs into ovens. People rely on generators costing $250 to $350 monthly in fuel just to keep fans running. In rural areas, people haul water every 2 to 3 days, spend hours dumping tanks, and face constant battery failure from extreme heat. RV parks around Albuquerque, Santa Fe, and Las Cruces now run 95 to 100% full year-round, a first in state history. Local governments respond with sweeps, but no long-term solutions. New Mexico proves even low-population states can suffer massive RV homelessness when wages remain stagnant for decades. Utah's image as a clean, stable, family-friendly state hides a housing crisis that exploded faster than anyone expected. Between 2020 and 2024, Salt Lake City rent increased 61%, one of the highest jumps in the nation. Meanwhile, wage growth stalled at 11%, creating a gap people couldn't bridge. Simultaneously, the Silicon Slopes tech corridor unraveled. Companies like Adobe, Qualtrics, Pluralsight, Podium, and Domo all went through layoffs or hiring freezes. Thousands of engineers and support staff suddenly lost income in a market where basic apartments cost $1,700 to $2,000. RVs became the fallback for many who couldn't keep up. Utah's RV homelessness looks different. The majority park in Davis, Utah, Weber, and Salt Lake counties, and authorities enforce strict 24 to 48-hour relocation rules. Utah Highway Patrol frequently removes RVs from highway shoulders, park and rides, and industrial streets. Winter is deadly. Nighttime temperatures regularly fall below 0 degrees, freezing tanks, pipes, and batteries. A single week of extreme cold can cost $250 to $400 in propane, and many RVs suffer catastrophic damage from ice expansion. Tourism towns like Moab, St. George, and Kanab rely heavily on service workers earning $14 to $19 hourly, yet rent there has skyrocketed past $1,600. Many workers now live in hidden desert RV encampments miles outside town, with no running water and no electricity. Utah reveals how even states with booming reputations can crumble when housing outpaces income, and when winter turns vehicle living into survival. The truth is brutally simple. America is cracking faster than anyone wants to admit.
Meanwhile, we are getting reaction to President Trump's new executive order to tackle homelessness. He says he wants to make it easier for cities and states to stop people from sleeping on the street.
Our once great cities have become unlivable, unsanitary nightmares.
Behind the bright lights of every big city, a hidden city on wheels is growing. RVs, vans, and cars packed with everything a family owns, moving from street to street before the next tow truck arrives. In 2025, millions of Americans live like this, not by choice, but because housing has turned into a luxury they can't afford. Homelessness in America has reached unprecedented levels in 2025, with experts calling it a national breaking point. Nationwide counts reveal over 1.3 million people experiencing homelessness on any given night, representing a 32% increase compared to pre-pandemic figures. The alarming aspect of 2025 is the speed of escalation, with some states reporting year-over-year increases between 18% and 41%, completely overwhelming shelters, charitable organizations, and municipal budgets across the country. The primary driver behind this surge is the expanding gap between wages and housing costs. Today's average renter must earn $29.86 per hour to afford a modest one-bedroom apartment, yet millions of workers earn between $12 and $19 hourly, creating an unsolvable financial equation. Cities including Phoenix, Denver, Portland, and Tampa experience some of the fastest growth rates, with unsheltered populations doubling within just 3 years. In 2025, over 56% of homeless Americans are unsheltered, living in tents, cars, abandoned buildings, or RVs. This represents a significant increase from under 40% a decade ago. Counties report emergency shelters consistently operating at over 95% capacity, forcing thousands to sleep outdoors in freezing temperatures or extreme heat. For the first time, homelessness is being recognized as a systemic national disaster rather than isolated local issues. The 2025 rent crisis serves as one of the most direct engines driving homelessness, pushing millions of Americans from their homes because they cannot match the rapid escalation of monthly housing costs. Nationally, rent has surged by an average of 38% since 2020, but major metropolitan areas like Miami, Austin, San Diego, and Seattle have seen increases ranging from 52% to 68%, making housing fundamentally unaffordable for working families. Evictions have skyrocketed in response to these increases. Court records document over 1.2 million eviction filings in the past 12 months, the highest number ever recorded in United States history. Counties in Florida, Texas, and Georgia report eviction rates up by 45%, often affecting families who never missed payments until recent rent hikes exceeded their income capacity. Even middle-class families face displacement. A typical two-bedroom apartment now costs over $2,240 monthly nationwide, requiring nearly $90,000 annual income to avoid being rent-burdened. Meanwhile, real wages grew only 4% during the same period, leaving millions unable to maintain housing. Corporate ownership compounds the crisis. Large investment companies now control 25% of all single-family rental homes, up from 16% 5 years ago. Their aggressive pricing models have contributed significantly to rent spikes across dozens of markets. With rent consuming 50 to 70% of workers' income, eviction has become a predictable outcome rather than an exception. One of the clearest indicators of the 2025 housing collapse is the explosive rise in Americans living in vehicles. Current estimates show between 3.1 and 3.8 million people now residing in cars, vans, trucks, or RVs, a number that has nearly tripled since 2018. This population includes full-time workers, families with children, seniors on fixed incomes, college students, and thousands of former homeowners who lost properties during job cuts or medical emergencies. Vehicle habitation was once considered a fringe survival strategy. Today, it represents the fastest-growing form of homelessness across the United States. Cities throughout Washington, Oregon, California, Arizona, Colorado, Texas, Florida, and New York report dramatic increases in RVs and vans parked on residential streets, industrial zones, near schools, or in big-box store parking lots. However, 2025 has also witnessed aggressive enforcement crackdowns. Municipal sweeps increased by as much as 300%, with tens of thousands of vehicles towed or impounded. These often become permanent losses because owners cannot afford $350 to $900 towing fees, plus $75 to $200 daily storage costs. Losing the vehicle means losing the only shelter remaining. Many vehicle dwellers work full-time, but earn insufficient wages to secure stable housing. Others choose RVs because shelter systems are overcrowded, unsafe, or prohibit pets, partners, or personal belongings. America now has a massive hidden homeless population attempting to maintain normal lives. Affordable housing construction has slowed to alarming levels, worsening an already brutal housing shortage across America. In 2025, the United States produced 45% fewer affordable housing units than in 2019, despite dramatically rising demand. Nationwide, the country faces a deficit of 7.3 million affordable units, leaving low-income families with nowhere to turn when rents increase or evictions occur. The primary cause is soaring construction costs. Building materials have increased 22 to 34%, while skilled labor shortages have driven wages up another 15 to 25%, pushing project budgets far beyond what states or developers can sustain financially. Consequently, many affordable housing projects remain stalled, abandoned entirely, or significantly scaled back from original plans. Waiting lists reveal the true severity of this crisis. More than 3.6 million Americans currently sit on affordable housing waitlists, facing delays measured in years rather than months. Cities including Los Angeles, Denver, Boston, and Nashville report average wait times of 3 to 8 years, with some lists closed entirely because backlogs have become completely unmanageable. This shortage forces families into motels, cars, RVs, or informal shared housing arrangements that lack safety and stability. For seniors living on fixed incomes, the absence of affordable units proves catastrophic. Without significant new construction, homelessness will inevitably continue rising, Not because people are irresponsible, but because the housing system simply lacks adequate capacity for everyone. Seniors have become the fastest growing homeless population in America. Individuals over 60 years old now comprise nearly 28% of all homeless adults in 2025, a dramatic increase from just 16% a decade earlier. Rising rents, mounting medical bills, disabilities, and fixed incomes create a perfect storm, pushing older adults into streets, RVs, or shelters completely unable to meet their specialized needs. Many seniors depend entirely on Social Security, providing an average monthly payment of $1,907. This falls far below the cost of a typical one-bedroom apartment, averaging $1,600 nationally and exceeding $2,800 in high-cost states. This gap forces millions of elderly Americans to make impossible choices between rent, food, and essential medications. Age-related medical conditions compound this crisis significantly. Over 45% of homeless seniors have chronic illnesses, and 22% require mobility assistance. Yet shelters typically lack accessible beds, bathrooms, or medical support necessary for elderly populations. Another growing concern involves seniors living in RVs and older vehicles that are unsafe, poorly insulated, or mechanically failing. Many of these vehicles break down beyond repair, leaving elderly individuals stranded outdoors without alternatives. With senior homelessness projected to double by 2030, cities are scrambling to respond, but resources remain stretched impossibly thin. This quiet emergency is becoming one of the darkest humanitarian failures in modern United States history, affecting our most vulnerable elderly citizens. Mental health and addiction have become core drivers of the 2025 homelessness crisis, not because people are choosing the streets, but because the United States simply lacks adequate treatment capacity. States currently face 30 to 50% shortages in psychiatric beds, detoxification centers, and long-term recovery programs. Waiting lists for public treatment range from 3 weeks to 4 months, leaving unstable individuals with nowhere to access help. Over 47% of chronically homeless adults have untreated mental illnesses, including bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, severe depression, or PTSD. Meanwhile, opioid-related homelessness continues climbing, with synthetic opioids now involved in 74% of overdose deaths nationally. Police departments report responding to more mental health-related calls than burglaries or assaults. Yet officers have no placements available, so individuals are often released back onto streets within hours of initial contact. Shelters face the heaviest burden of this pressure, struggling to manage medical crises, psychotic episodes, and addiction withdrawal without trained staff or resources. Many facilities operate at 120% capacity, forcing them to turn desperate people away nightly. This system failure creates a destructive cycle where untreated individuals lose jobs, homes, relationships, medications, and stability, then fall into homelessness where their conditions worsen dramatically. America's mental health infrastructure is collapsing under the weight of modern homelessness, transforming a treatable problem into a long-term public emergency. Family homelessness in 2025 has reached levels unseen in modern American history. More than 190,000 children experienced homelessness this year, the highest number ever recorded in the United States. Most come from households where at least one adult works full-time but cannot afford rent following sudden price spikes that outpaced income growth. Family homelessness has increased by 28% nationwide, and in states like Florida, Nevada, New Mexico, and Washington, the rise approaches 40 to 52%. Families now sleep in cars, motels, shelters, or cramped RVs lacking heat, plumbing, and basic safety features necessary for raising children. A major cause is the disappearance of lower-cost rentals. Units that previously rented for $800 to $1,000 now start at $1,600 or more, leaving families unable to maintain housing despite working multiple jobs simultaneously. Schools are overwhelmed by this crisis. Teachers report students arriving hungry, unbathed, and exhausted after nights sleeping in vehicles. Some districts saw homeless student numbers double within just 2 years. Traditional shelters cannot handle the influx of large families, infants, or pregnant women. Many parents are separated from their children during intake due to capacity or policy limits, creating trauma lasting years. For the first time, America is witnessing widespread working family homelessness, where people do everything right yet still end up without homes. The working homeless now represent one of the largest segments of the homeless population. Millions of Americans hold full-time jobs, some even 2 or 3, yet still live in cars, tents, motels, or RVs because their wages cannot keep pace with housing costs that continue rising faster than income. In 2025, more than 53% of unsheltered homeless adults reported having a job or stable income source. Many work in healthcare support, warehouse operations, food service, retail, logistics, trucking, and hospitality, industries essential to the economy but notorious for providing low wages insufficient for housing. A full-time worker earning the federal minimum wage of $7.25 per hour brings in roughly $1,160 monthly before taxes. Even someone earning $15 hourly makes only about $2,400 per month, while national rent for a modest apartment often exceeds $1,900, creating an impossible financial equation. This mismatch makes homelessness an inevitable outcome rather than a choice. Many working homeless choose RVs or vans to maintain hygiene and safety while continuing employment. However, rising fuel costs, parking restrictions, and police sweeps make vehicle living increasingly unstable and dangerous. The working homeless are often invisible in society. They shower at gyms, dress professionally, and report to work every day while sleeping in vehicles or tents at night. For millions of Americans, homelessness isn't laziness. It's an economy where full-time work no longer guarantees shelter. One of the most controversial aspects of the 2025 homelessness crisis is the surge in police sweeps targeting RVs, vans, and cars used as homes. Cities including Los Angeles, Phoenix, Seattle, Denver, Miami, and New York have increased vehicle habitation enforcement by 200 to 300% this year, dramatically escalating confrontations with homeless populations. In many sweeps, entire streets lined with RVs are cleared within hours. Vehicles are ticketed for expired registration, parking violations, or improper habitation, then towed and impounded. Towing fees range from $350 to nearly $1,000, with daily storage charges between $75 and $200, making it financially impossible for most people to reclaim their only homes. Tens of thousands of RVs, vans, and cars have already been destroyed or auctioned off. Losing the vehicle means losing shelter, belongings, medication, and important documents, effectively resetting people to absolute homelessness with no pathway back. Cities defend these sweeps as safety measures, citing fires, drug use, and sanitation issues. However, critics argue the policies criminalize poverty and create deeper desperation rather than solving underlying problems. In 2025, nearly 40% of all unsheltered homeless individuals lived in vehicles at some point during the year. These crackdowns are pushing many from semi-stable vehicle living into full-street homelessness, a dramatic and often irreversible decline in quality of life and safety. Tent encampments, once concentrated mostly in downtown areas, are now spreading into suburban neighborhoods, business districts, wooded areas, and highway shoulders across the United States. This growth is driven by overcrowded shelters, rising evictions, and vehicle crackdowns that leave thousands with nowhere else to seek shelter. In 2025, major metropolitan areas saw encampment populations grow by 35 to 60%. But the most noticeable shift is geographic. Communities in suburban Colorado, Nevada, Arizona, Washington, and Tennessee report large encampments forming near retail centers, parks, rivers, bike paths, and under highway overpasses. Highway encampments are especially dangerous. States like California and Oregon recorded over 220 tent-related roadside fires in the last year alone. Pedestrian fatalities near encampments are also rising as people attempt crossing busy roads. For local governments, encampments create sanitation, safety, and environmental challenges requiring significant resources. For residents, they create fear and tension. But for homeless individuals, these camps are often the only place where they can live without constant eviction. Some cities attempt managed camps, offering restrooms, trash pickup, and security, but capacity is severely limited compared to demand. Tent cities are now a permanent feature of the American landscape, a visible sign that the housing system is unable to contain the scale of this crisis. Food insecurity is escalating alongside homelessness, and food banks across the country are reporting demand levels they have never seen before. Many large city food banks have experienced 40 to 70% increases in requests for assistance compared to 2022. Some smaller organizations have doubled or tripled their caseloads, straining resources and volunteer networks. In 2025, an estimated 52 million Americans struggle with food insecurity, the highest number since tracking began. Inflation plays a major role in this crisis. Grocery prices have risen 19% over 2 years, while wages have remained stagnant for millions of working families. Food banks are running out of supplies weekly. Some locations have had to limit families to one visit per month or reduce the quantity of food distributed due to shortages. Rural regions are especially vulnerable, as they often rely on volunteer-run food pantries with limited inventory and funding. The crisis also impacts homeless individuals living in tents, cars, and RVs who lack refrigeration or cooking facilities. Many rely heavily on shelf-stable items, which are often the first to run out during shortages. This strain on food systems reflects a deeper truth. Homelessness isn't just a housing crisis. It's an economic crisis affecting every layer of survival. Food banks, once a temporary safety net, are becoming a permanent life support system for millions of Americans struggling to survive. The year 2025 has seen a wave of layoffs across major industries, creating a new surge of homelessness among working adults. Tech companies cut more than 220,000 jobs, logistics shed over 90,000, retail eliminated 150,000, and manufacturing downsized by another 60,000 positions. When jobs disappear, housing stability quickly follows. Most laid-off workers lack emergency savings. 57% of Americans cannot afford a $1,000 unexpected expense. When income suddenly stops, rent is often the first bill they cannot cover. Within 60 to 90 days, many face eviction proceedings. Cities like Dallas, Seattle, Atlanta, and Chicago report that as many as 1 in 3 newly homeless individuals cite job loss as the primary cause of their homelessness. Compounding the issue, unemployment benefits in many states are insufficient, paying between $280 and $450 per week, far below the cost of rent in most markets. Some laid-off workers transition into RVs, vans, or couch-surfing arrangements, but others quickly fall into tents or shelters. This trend highlights how close many Americans are to homelessness in today's economy. In a fragile economy where layoffs happen overnight, millions live only one lost paycheck away from losing everything. The safety net has proven insufficient to catch people before they fall into homelessness, creating a pipeline from unemployment to living on the streets. Despite billions in funding, government responses to homelessness often fail due to mismanagement, bureaucracy, and inefficiency. In 2025 alone, federal and state governments allocated over $11.6 billion to homelessness programs, yet homelessness still reached record highs across the nation. A major problem is administrative overhead. Some cities spend 30 to 50% of their homeless budgets on administration, consulting, outreach teams, and nonprofit contractors rather than direct housing solutions. Several cities have been criticized for building temporary shelters at exorbitant costs. One West Coast city spent $104,000 per tent, while another spent over $500,000 per tiny home unit. Yet these solutions housed only a small fraction of those in need. Meanwhile, long-term housing programs remain severely underfunded. Federal vouchers serve only 1 in 4 eligible families, leaving millions without assistance. Many programs force homeless individuals to navigate complex paperwork, strict eligibility rules, or long waiting periods. Those without identification, medical records, or transportation often cannot access help at all. The system is fragmented, inconsistent, and often out of touch with ground-level reality. Instead of reducing homelessness, many policies inadvertently prolong it. Money is spent, but results remain minimal, leaving homeless populations growing while billions in funding produces disappointing outcomes. Fundamental reform is needed to create effective solutions. As homelessness rises, public safety concerns are increasing in both sheltered and unsheltered communities. While the majority of homeless individuals are not violent, The environment of extreme poverty often creates conditions that breed conflict, theft, and victimization. Cities have reported 20 to 40% increases in incidents involving encampments, including fires, overdoses, and altercations. At the same time, homeless individuals themselves face extreme danger. Studies show they are 3 to 5 times more likely to be victims of violent crime compared to the general population. Public health concerns are also growing. Outbreaks of hepatitis A, trench fever, lice, tuberculosis, and gastrointestinal illnesses have been reported in multiple cities due to lack of sanitation and medical care. Encampment fires, often caused by makeshift heating, have increased by over 200% since 2020. Law enforcement, public health departments, and hospitals are overwhelmed. Many communities cannot keep up with the intertwined challenges of addiction, untreated mental illness, and street-level survival. These escalating safety and health risks reveal a deeper crisis. Homelessness has moved beyond housing into a full-scale humanitarian emergency. The situation threatens not only homeless individuals, but entire communities struggling to respond to the crisis. Without comprehensive interventions, these public health and safety concerns will continue escalating dramatically. The homelessness crisis of 2025 has sparked a mass domestic migration as tens of thousands of individuals travel across state lines searching for cheaper housing, warmer weather, or states with more flexible laws regarding vehicle habitation and homelessness. States like Nevada, Arizona, Texas, and Florida report increases of 20 to 35% in out-of-state homeless arrivals during the past year. Meanwhile, expensive states like California, Washington, Illinois, and New York are seeing thousands leave because living conditions and enforcement policies have become unsustainable. Many migrants rely on RVs, vans, or older cars for shelter during travel. Others hitch rides, use buses, or follow social media groups that share information on free parking, lenient cities, or low-cost motels. Some travel hoping to find work in growing markets. Others travel to escape aggressive sweeps or extreme weather conditions. But many quickly discover that cheaper states have limited shelter capacity and affordable rentals are scarce everywhere. This interstate shuffle exposes a national reality. There is no state where the poor can outrun rising housing costs. The crisis is nationwide, and migration only redistributes the problem rather than solving it. This movement also strains receiving communities unprepared for sudden population increases, creating tension between existing residents and newcomers seeking survival. Looking ahead, analysts warn that 2026 could be even more destabilizing than 2025. Many cities are already drafting new ordinances that would restrict overnight parking, tighten RV habitation laws, or expand no camping zones. These policies could affect millions of Americans currently living in RVs or vehicles. Some states are considering laws allowing cities to tow or impound RVs after 72 hours of non-movement, while others propose designated zones with mandatory fees that struggling families cannot afford. Economically, rising consumer debt, now over $17.8 trillion, and continued layoffs may push tens of thousands more into homelessness. If rent trends continue, experts predict an additional 180,000 to 260,000 people could become homeless in 2026. With shelters already over capacity and affordable housing construction stalled, America could see a widening divide between housed and unhoused populations like never before. Many warn that without systemic reform, 2026 may be the year vehicle homelessness becomes impossible to hide or ignore. The crisis will likely force difficult conversations about housing as a human right versus property rights, public space usage, and fundamental economic reform needed to address the root causes of homelessness. The coming year will test America's commitment to solving this humanitarian crisis. This isn't a storm that's coming. This is the storm we're already in. What is your biggest fear about where this is heading? Comment below and share what's happening in your city or town. And don't miss our next upload, where we uncover how new 2026 laws could criminalize living in your RV anywhere in America.